Hello everyone and welcome to Sunup. I'm Lyndall Stout. Heavy rains can cause a number of issues, but it's the issues that bite that are the most annoying. We're starting things off with Dr. Jonathan Cammack, OSU Extension livestock entomologist, with some mosquito prevention tips for both you and your livestock. Jonathan, it's really been raining a lot. We're already seeing quite a few mosquitoes around.
Yeah, it's been kind of nonstop for the past 2 months now. With this rainfall, we're getting these short bursts that are dumping pretty significant amounts of water, and things aren't really having a chance to dry out.
So what does that mean in terms of mosquitoes when it's a year like this?
Right, we always think it's raining a lot, so it's going to be a bad year for mosquitoes. So the truth is we always have mosquitoes present. Some years could be better, and for us, some years could be better for the mosquitoes, which would be worse for us. But it really comes down to how much rainfall we're getting and at what frequency. We have some species of mosquitoes that we would classify as floodwater mosquitoes, and they lay their eggs in areas where they anticipate that waters are going to rise, so that once their eggs get wet, those eggs hatch, the larvae will go down into the water, and they'll complete their development cycle. Some of those eggs can lie dormant in the environment for 2, 3, or 4 years until we have a big enough rainfall event to rise those water levels up and cause them to hatch. So a lot of the mosquitoes that we saw early on this season are those floodwater ones, because their eggs have been sitting dormant in the environment since last year or years prior, and we're now seeing a lot of those mosquitoes in the environment.
And then this kind of second issue is like what we see here, standing water, that really is appetizing to those mosquitoes.
Yeah, so the standing water like we have right over here in the background is an environment for a different group of mosquitoes that don't really rely on those kind of rise and fall of floodwaters. They want kind of more either temporary pools like what we see here, or permanent pools like what might be a pond environment or something. But with the ground being as saturated as it is right now, we've got these environments like over here where that water is sitting for enough time, 4 or 5 days, kind of at the minimum, to maybe 7 to 10 days at the maximum for mosquitoes to be able to complete their development. And as long as, once every 2, 3, 4 days, it seems we're getting these pretty big rainfall events so far this spring, these areas aren't having a chance to dry out. And we could even see areas as small as a hoof print, being able to hold enough water to support the development of some mosquitoes.
And these mosquitoes, once they're out and about, they're kind of non-discriminating, right? Between pets, horses, cattle, and people.
Yes, everything we have right now is kind of non-discriminate in terms of what it's biting. Really nothing is safe, whether it's us, sitting outside, and on a patio trying to enjoy a nice cool evening, or even some cattle that are out trying to graze, or our pets. We're really all kind of at their mercy at the moment.
Are they most active in the evening?
Certain species are active in the what we would call the crepuscular times of day, or at dusk and dawn, so those are kind of some of the mosquitoes that we have right now are those, and then but others, as we just saw a minute ago, there are mosquitoes flying around out here right now.
So let's kind of switch gears and talk prevention tips, both for people and for animals. There's some general things, right, like cleaning this up. Talk about that, and then some of the other prevention tips.
Okay, so with a lot of our pests, we want to start thinking about those environmental modifications that we can make to make that area, not a good place for them to be able to reproduce. So in this example over here, if you have a corner of a pasture or something around a water trough, where there's always water standing, come up with some way to try to drain that, whether that's cut a little, small drainage ditch to get that water to move away so that it doesn't stand. Or if we think about something, maybe in our own front yard or backyard, if you've got a bird bath that's accumulating water and has some algae growing in it, that's great for mosquitoes. So we want to periodically go over and dump that out. And same thing goes for 5-gallon buckets or even pots. Right now we've got so much rainfall that even our pots that have that kind of basin at the bottom that kind of serve as an automatic waterer, if you will, in the summer, right now that's a perfect location for mosquitoes to be reproducing in, because we've got that continual standing water. So if you've got anything that's holding water, just go around once or twice a week and pour that out.
So things very saturated right now.
Yeah, very saturated, yep.
In terms of treatment options, prevention treatment options, what do you recommend? And I'm sure there's a protocol for livestock, pets, and people.
Yeah, for livestock, there's not much that we can do. They're just kind of out there in the environment. We can't, tell the cows to put on, DEET or something like that. One, because it's not labeled for them, but, they're constantly in the environment. So if they're getting rained on or sun exposure, that product isn't going to work. So there's not much we can do for our livestock for, preventing the mosquitoes, from being attracted to them. But for people, we can use repellents, things, that are contain DEET. DEET is a very effective mosquito repellent. It works extremely well, if you have to be outside, or if not, once they start biting, go inside. It's there are things that we can do. You might want to sit outside, but the kind of the off chance that you might contract something like West Nile virus, is a little bit more of a risk than potential sitting outside in the evening.
And these mosquitoes do carry things.
Right. So we've got those two groups that we talked about initially, the kind of the floodwater species. We don't have any really human health concerns associated with those. They're just some of our larger mosquitoes, and their bite is very painful because of their size. But some of those species can transmit Venezuelan equine encephalitis to horses, and then anaplasmosis to our cattle. So we have a livestock threat there. And then some of our other kind of more urban or those container breeding, such as the Aedes species that we have, they're vectors of West Nile virus and also heartworm. So we've got to think about protecting our dogs and our cats from those as well.
And some of those prevention treatments that you can get from your veterinarian provide some protection.
Yes, a lot of the products that are available on the market for dogs and cats that are labeled for flea and tick control, particularly some of the newer, more advanced ones, are also effective against either repelling mosquitoes or also treating heartworm.
Okay. Great overview, Jonathan, and scientific information for us on a not so fun topic, but one we need to be aware of, especially in a season like the one that we're having. All right. Thanks for your time today.
Yep, thank you.